Climb the ladder and hold it for someone else is today's guest's favorite quote. He's a neuroscience and physiology honors graduate and a fifth-year medical student at UCT. Most of you know him as Mdizo. I know him as my classmate Uluxolo Mdolo, and he is here today to chat with me about his journey on how he managed to get those brilliant marks in high school, his journey in medical school, how he managed to be a graduate while in medical school, and we're obviously going to talk about his social media career, as most of you know him from TikTok. So grab your seats, get you a cup of coffee, because this is about to be an inspirational episode. Hello, Mdizo. How are you doing today?
Hey, well, thank you, Mdizo. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. You are literally the most requested guest on this podcast. So these people were going to beat me if I didn't invite you here. And I'm so glad that you are finally here.
Hey.
And we're going to be talking more about who you are, your journey as a medical student, and your journey as Mdizo on social media, because I know you're one of the person who has a lot of friends, and a lot of people want to know more about you. But first, before we get into anything, we're going to do an icebreaker.
Sure.
So you're going to choose a number between 1 to 20, and I'll give you a question to answer.
Okay.
Yeah?
All right, so I choose, let's say 17.
So your question is, if there's anything you can change in this world, what would it be?
Anything I would
kind
change.
of deep one.
It's a very deep one, because I think I would remove all the suffering. You know, the reason why I did medicine in the first place was because of how people suffered. I had this deep desire to alleviate that suffering. But the more I do medicine, the more I realize that you can't alleviate suffering. You can only try to reduce it. And people are suffering in so many ways. You can try to heal this part of them, but they'll still be struggling financially.
Yeah.
You know, they'll still be trying to find food, trying to find jobs. And in this world where there's so much war, like, if we can just remove that suffering, that's what I would do. Like, that's the most unrealistic thing
know, right?
I would change.
I mean,
But
imagine if nobody suffered in any way. We would be so happy, though. But I feel like also we wouldn't strive for better. You know, we wouldn't wake up to work. We wouldn't try to be better. I mean, that's a good plan. That's a good plan. Okay.
Oh, man.
So tell us more. Who is Mdizo? Where is he from?
That's a very packed question, hey? Like, it reminds me of these interviews. Mdizo Bafethu is a young man from Tabangulo, which is a town. But specifically, I'm from Mdizo, which is an outskirt of that town. It's a Mpondo nation kind of vibe. I am born by a pastor and a nurse.
Oh, you're a PK.
I'm a PK.
Oh, wow.
Hey, look, let's not judge. But
Okay.
yeah, so that's me. I grew up there in the village, but moved to townships. But you know the life of a PK, they travel a lot, so they take their family with. So I've been traveling, Tata, Port Elizabeth, that's where I matriculated. Then I just was an individual who loves knowledge. You know, I love to know. So inquisitive mind, you know, desire to help people, that's 1 + 1 = medicine.
Yeah, okay.
So I was like, okay. Then into medicine, then this is the damn Mdizo. So
Okay, so first of all, I am so curious, and I think you guys are also curious. What's the meaning of Mdizo?
Okay, so I think people, it's either if you're from the Kasi or if you're close, you'll understand that, for example, when you're growing up, you always have people that you look up to who are your older brothers, especially in the township. And we normally put the da as a sign of respect for those people. You know? So then when you go to initiation school and you come back, you receive your own da.
Oh,
you know,
I
then
see.
you become Tabanban, you know, because I remember I had like older brother, Tamali, Taseida, Tabanban. When you come back, now the young ones can't call you by name.
Oh, do they give you a specific name or
some random khotman just throws a name at you, and if it sticks, it sticks. Because some people just enjoy certain names. Like you can be called the X, but people are like the X, but they say Mdizo, then all of a sudden Mdizo.
So there's not really like a meaning.
Yeah, but it comes from my surname Dolo.
Yeah, that's what I thought also.
It comes from Dolo, then they were like Mdizo, then
Oh, and then you went with it. Wow, okay.
Yeah,
at least now we know. All right, so how was life when you were growing up? I mean, you are from deep in the rural village. How was life growing up when it comes to school, when it comes to, friendships, the community? How would you summarize that?
So in overall, growing up, I spent a few years in the village, but we always lived close enough so that we can travel back when we moved out. Living in the village was very peaceful, I must say, but access, of course, is a problem to quality education and so forth. And since my dad, before he was a pastor, he was a teacher, so he valued education a lot. So we moved now to better schools, and he was a pastor, so we moved to different towns. We're in Mount Frere. That environment of being a pastor's child was something else.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. Then we moved from Mount Frere to Mthatha, spent grade 8, 9, then moved again to Port Elizabeth. Then when we got to Port Elizabeth, that way it actually became very real. Because at Gqeberha, the problem is that my dad had to leave when I was starting my grade 12. So now they had to figure out, am I going to change schools in grade 12? Or am I going to actually just stay? So we opted for me to stay and rent a place. So I was living alone in grade 12.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's hectic.
Yeah, at first I also looked at it as a challenge. But then I realized, I don't know, some wisdom from somewhere, came to me, and I was like, I can actually use this to my advantage. So what you would find is that it's less regulated. For example, when you're in high school, your parents, they worry, you must enter at home up before 6 p.m. Otherwise we're closing the gate. I never had that. I would run study sessions till 11 p.m. and run home. No one is going to ask me anything.
Why are you coming late and stuff like that.
So I think I used that to my advantage. But that was basically how I grew up. Then from Gqeberha, I wanted to come to Cape Town, running away from parents. Little did I know that they're going to follow me.
Wow, which means actually you've been wise long before. Because, I mean, if you're a teenager, you're in Matric, you're living, you have your own apartment or space whatsoever. People will be thinking of throwing house parties. They'll be thinking of, bringing girls in. And you're just, the thing you're thinking about is having longer study sessions, which is great.
I feel like such a nerd.
Not really, but it got you where you are now. I mean, you would have maybe looked like a nerd back then, but then now that you are here, we're like, oh, okay, actually, you're probably glad that you actually took that decision.
Fact.
Yeah.
It was a big one because I think normally at the time, people can relate. There were popular things that were happening, like what kind of things called Iskotane. I'm not sure if you've heard of them.
No, I knew them. They were in my school.
Exactly, like they were carrying my Ultramel, like Macavela. Every child wanted to have that. But it is only when the realization hits that background is fun.
Yeah.
When I have a conversation with my friends, their only dream is to own a taxi within the township. Some people want to own a certain industry within the township. Then you realize that if this is all about life, then this is not something that I really want. Like you have a conversation, you ask, actually my mom was also someone who was quite open with our finances at home. Like kids would come home like, I'm going to talk to my mom, Kirikavela. Then you get there, their families, they hola income which is grant. Then what happens is that your parents tell you, Mtanam, we don't have money for that.
Yeah.
And you need to understand that we're doing the best that we can. So my parents were very open with that. And now it creates an understanding that allows you to adapt accordingly. Now you need to think about, my parents can afford. Then what is the one thing that I can do now to ensure that I change the situation at home? I think when the realization hits, trust me, your life is going to be shaped very differently.
That's so deep. That's so deep. Oh, so tell us, when did you realize that actually you want to be a doctor?
I think a lot of people that, ask about this question, maybe they might be like, oh, I've always wanted to be a doctor. Me, it was never necessarily about being a doctor. I think also it was a combination of things. Let me start here. My mom is a nurse who wanted to be a doctor. Ne? So you can imagine the influence that she's going to have.
Yeah.
And then, of course, genetics. So she's such a caring person. She loves people. She loves her job. Like, she feels most fulfilled when she's serving people. Then my dad is a pastor. What do pastors do? They serve people.
Yeah.
So now in your mind,
it runs in your family.
Service.
Yeah.
So that's how you define true satisfaction. So back on my mind, I knew that I wanted to serve people. Né? But it also came to, of course, the marks and enjoyment. At first in grade 11, my marks were poor, so I didn't even consider it. I only decided when I was in grade 12, I was like, okay, it's time to apply now, let's think about it. Then I actually started reflecting. I had previous experiences with doctors that really shaped how I think about it. Like, wow, these people are making a difference. And the marks were allowing, and I wanted to help people. And so I was like, okay, let me make it my first option. Yeah, Bobuti, I want to be a doctor. This is how I'm going to help people.
So are you trying to say you were not like a best performing student throughout your high school? Because I'm hearing you saying grade 11 was bad. So because you appear as the person who has been, good academically from primary to secondary, and then grade 12 was a guarantee that you're going to kill it. But also I know that there are people who have been like playing all along, and then when it comes to grade 12, distinctions. So I want to know, what kind of a person were you?
So fair, you caught me there. You caught me red-handed.
Yeah.
So I was not very like a student that performs very like wow. I was one of those students who just chilling there in the back, the back of the class kind of vibe. Because me, I love people,
Yeah.
And I feel like the most genuine people that I meet are people that sit at the back of the class, because they are comfortable in their mediocrity, and they're quite chilled. If they are notorious, they are in it together. So I always found a family in those people. So even when I was in grade 8, I was part of a group. We called ourselves DLL. Engu Daniel,
it's giving gang vibes,
bruh. Very notorious, those ones. We would do beatboxing, all these things, then painting on the walls, all that. Then when I got to grade 10, remember I moved to Gqeberha now. I went to Douglas and Mbopa. When I got there, I still joined another gang. I call them a gang because anyway. We called ourselves now IDC. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like it was the pits, because like
I just have vibes that you ended up being a Scotland. It just looks like
no. I actually had a friend who went into the Scotland vibe. He made me realize that I don't have money. Like,
but you wanted to be in.
Like, look, if I had the resources, I'm not lying to you. Like, I would be. I'll be doing the things. I'm not lying to you. But anyway, the resources were my inhibition.
Yeah.
Maybe parents' prayers. I don't know. But so I joined those guys. But what happened is that when the reality hit, as I mentioned, Uguti, look, your marks are going down. You're coming from a family that can't really afford much. Like, they're not like they have a reserve money for you to go to university or anything. Like, whatever you do now really determines your future. And the constant voices of the teachers telling you, you have potential, Mtana, marks come back 0 out of Ndondon. Like, but Mtana, you have potential. So, and you also get to a point where now my brother as well was starting to do well academically. So my parents would be like, what's going on?
Was he ahead? Or
one grade ahead of me. Yeah, 1 grade ahead of me. So Valence, it was that. Then I sat down this other time and I was like, I need to get my things together. So when you hit that rock bottom, that's what I normally tell people, is that our rock bottoms are different. But once you hit your rock bottom, you realize you can't go any further down. You need to start making your way up. And any movement towards up, it's going to be progress. So that's what I started doing. Like, there was no steps to do. Now we share steps to do this.
Study tips.
It was do or die.
Exactly.
Now, for me, it was literally a do or die. Because my marks, when I got to grade 11 June, my marks came back. It was like 3s, 4s, 3s, 4s. And I'm like, where am I going to go with these marks? Like, if it takes a drive, that's where I'm going to go. So I was like, do or die. So I literally went all out from there. I would set up meetings with teachers, like, teacher, help me. How do I, your subject, how do I go about it? Like, I would have all these things, do all these things the best that I can. Then eventually my marks started improving. Then I would even bribe, actually. Yeah, I bribed my friends. So what I would do, it's a strategic thing I would do. So for example, I would study a lot of life science. Then I know that some friend of mine who's good in math struggles with life science. Then I'd bribe information. I'd be like, Chief, look, me, I mastered that topic. You saw in that class where I got 10 out of 10. When you got 5. Look, teach me this. I remember you with this one.
You're very smart.
Exactly. Or sometimes I buy go-slows. I'm like, okay, with the little money I have, let me buy this guy go-slows. I'm like, man, 2 hours of your time, man, let's just show me how this thing goes. They don't know. It's subtle, But yeah, then all those efforts basically culminated in me trying to do well, eventually getting like 3 distinctions in my grade 11 final. But others were like 6s and 5s. But my distinctions were in the key subjects, like your maths, your physics, and your...
that was a major improvement.
Then I was like, okay, I've got these under control. Now let's fight for the other subjects as well. Grade 12 first term, 7 distinctions.
Wow.
Throughout the year.
So what did you have to do specifically? Like, what did you change for your marks to go from that to like the 7 distinctions you got in Matric?
All right. I cannot take credit away from tutoring programs. I would never do that. There is a tutoring program called Kutlanong Pro Maths. It's all over South Africa, but more so in townships. What they do is that they take the best teachers in different schools according to their marks in their subjects like maths and science. Then they pay them to teach on Saturdays, Sundays, and sometimes Fridays. You see, then they do that in a township. They collect different students from different schools. Then they put them together on that Saturday. Then they teach them. So that's how they do it. So it's called Kutlanong. Yo, that's a guy.
It helps.
That thing. The problem here is that it can either bring you down because of peer pressure, because there are people high performing like the 99s, the 100s, then, or it can bring you up, make you competitive. But because of the state I was in at the time, that transition state, I was willing to do anything. I even got to a point where I started carrying 2 bags to school. 1 bag was filled with textbooks, all my textbooks that I would use, even if the subjects are not entering that day. 1 bag of textbooks, 1 bag of books. Then I would normally just appreciate walking to school. Now I would walk about 30 minutes to school just to think, just to go through my mind, be in my own thoughts. And I even got to a point where this other girl asked me, it was a friend of mine, she was like, Mdizo, actually, are you okay? Are you losing it? Because this is madness.
That was a major transition.
And I was like, you don't see what I see. You don't feel what I feel. Like you're not clear now. Pumagi. But fine. What's fun is that in grade 12, June, it was a trend to carry 2 bags at school.
Oh, you said that.
Because I was ceremony now when they came and they showed Madam this was performing well with the 2 bags. People are getting 2 bags.
It reminds me of something. Actually, I had a similar experience. So in class, I love Macheu, right? Number 1 Macheu. I love it. And usually it's associated with a stigma of you are sick. It's for sick people and stuff like that. But I love it. So I would carry a liter with me to school and would stay just right below my seat in class. Did not people bring Macheu?
There's some formula in that Macheu. You don't think it's hard work, you think it's a Macheu. It's not hard work at all. It's a Macheu.
Exactly. And people started bringing, because I think I started with 2 liters of water. I was bringing, because it was hot where I'm from Mpumalanga, so it was hot. I was carrying 2 liters of water, so I would drink that water throughout my classes. And people started bringing water. Exactly. I brought Macheu. Exactly. People were now bringing Macheu to class.
Trendsetter.
Since now you were getting, like you say, you were getting 7 distinctions in first term, what adjustments did you have to make? What key adjustments? Because you told us that you were a very playful person, you loved people, and you spent your time, doing other stuff. And now you hit rock bottom, as you've said, and you realize that actually you need to improve. So what are the key specific things you'd say that, okay, I had to change this, I had to cut off that, I had to do that?
First of all, I think the obvious one, the friend group. Okay, let me start like this. Let me start from inside outside.
Yeah.
I think you need to let go of different things. Yeah? From internally, you need to let go of people's expectations. You need to let go of the desire to please people. You need to let go of other people's dreams. You need to hold on to who you want to be. You need to define what the future looks like for you.
Yeah.
The clearer you are about your own future, it's easier to reach for it. Have you ever tried to solve a big puzzle without knowing what it looks like at the end?
Yeah.
That's the recipe for failure. So the clearer you are about what you want to do, the better the chances of you actually getting there, right? So that's what I had to change inside me, right? Once I was clear, it was like a light bulb moment. You know, it's like the world was dark and I was in the light.
I think also this is one key thing that I need like people to always understand, and it is one key thing that I always think about when I like make study tips videos, because back then I didn't have any study tips. I didn't watch any YouTube channel to get study tips. It came from internally. I had self-discipline, self-motivation and stuff like that. And study tips, yes, they are helpful. You know, you can learn new skills, how to do, you know, stuff easier, how to study better and stuff like that. But if you do not have that self-discipline and that motivation,
intrinsic,
it won't work.
Exactly.
So I just love how you started answering the question based on what changed within you. Because if nothing happened within you, teachers would literally be just barking and barking. You wouldn't hear anything. So yeah.
So a lot of people like to use the external environment to change inside. But it actually should be the inside that is informed to change the outside.
Yeah.
For example, that's why they watch a lot of motivational videos. They're looking for something external to stimulate something within. But if you take the time to work on yourself, to redefine your inner abilities, your inner desires, your inner, who am I? Who do I want to be? What's my situation? Where do I come from? You know, where do I want to see myself? Do I even fit in this space? Then once you're clear there, it's easier now to have an internal drive that's more long-lasting than some external drive. Okay, then after that, I went to now, okay, look, my internal drive is forcing me to change certain things externally. My internal drive is telling me that I can't really hang out with the people that I was hanging out with.
Yeah.
Because I even tried, I was like, okay, let me ask them let's study my shit. They're like, from where?
Who do you think you are?
Exactly. So it really showed that you can't. Once your internal drive changes, like you can't be in the same environment. So now I was trying to polish up my environment. What I did, I started, removing myself. I didn't even say anything. And I remember this other time, they were like, hey, trade away, Nacho. Hey, trade away.
Yeah.
And because I was not hanging out with them quite often anymore, like they'd be like, don't break time. I'm like, nah, gents, I think I live to look at something first. I know quite well that half of my break I'm going to eat, half of my break I want to work on the classwork or work on that homework, Like, then after that, you design certain rules for yourself according to your process. Okay, let me engage the teacher every time a term starts and find out, but from that subject, what topics are we going to cover? And in what order we're going to cover them. Why? Because I want to stay ahead.
Yeah.
It's just that desire,
Yeah.
I want to stay ahead. Then once you stay ahead, you're like, okay, I'm playing catch up with the teacher. Yeah, well, she's catching up to me or he's catching up to me, then I move. So it was that game. Then you start thinking, okay, what can I do? Okay, I think I need a study group. Then I was like, okay, how do I start an effective study group? Then we had an award ceremony. And then they announced the top 10. Then I was like, oh, the top 10 is made from friendly people. Let me start with this top 10. I approached every one of them. And then I was like, okay, let me start by telling them how it's going to benefit them. I'm like, imagine studying with the top 10. Working together.
Yo, you sound very strategic.
Like, the thing is, you don't think about this. But on retrospect, you're like, hectic. Then I approached all of them. They agreed. So every time for just an hour or an hour and a half after school, get together. Maybe we're doing physics. We're doing different things. But like just having someone's perspective around you. Just having someone who's also pushing with the same drive. Then they were like, should we allow people to come into our study? And I'm like, let's try something. Allow them and see if they won't fall off. They came in, they were falling off.
They were falling off.
Then we got to a point where like, well, let's not allow them because it's disrupting. Let's rather just ask where we can help them. then they get that help, then they can go back to whatever study group they were in. So we started there. I remember it got so intense to a point where, I'm not proud of this, but it happened. I went home, I went to all these multiple study groups that I had. Then I came back at around 11. Then I was like, yo, I need to study alone for something because I still need to be ahead. From 11, I studied until the early hours of the morning. Did I not tell you that I just took a young 1 hour nap? I woke up, I brushed my teeth, I washed my face, put on roll on, same uniform, same shirt, same everything. I went back to school. Like, it was so intense. That's why I'm saying that the power of that internal drive is unshakable.
That's true dedication.
It is unshakable. Like, you do the craziest things. Like, guys, the things I will tell you, like...
Yeah, no, I also have my stories. I won't share. I want to maintain my dignity.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll switch roles and we'll interview you. Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about your Matric results. If you can remember them at the top of your head, like the main subjects, what did you get?
You'll forgive me if you catch me out on a lie here.
It's fine.
But I remember for physics, I got a 98.
Yeah.
For maths, I got a 95. For LO, was it a 90 or a 92? For the close side, was a 92. Then for English, 83. Consumer studies, 83. What did I not mention? Yeah, mainly those.
Those are actually brilliant results, hey? Yeah. Especially that LO one, because life orientation in grade 12 was really hard. You had to actually sit down and study the textbook. Yeah. So, did you expect those results?
To be honest with you, when I was in grade 11, I would not have said the same thing that I would say in grade 12. In grade 12, I did expect to get, because first time I got 7 distinctions. Then what normally happens is that when people go to second term, the marks dropped. Mine didn't. They went up.
They went up, yeah.
So I was working hard and I was really structuring my goals. Like, I was really shaping my goals. Like, okay, these marks are here now. Let me do something to add on to increase the marks, you know. So I kept trying to increase. Maybe in September they didn't increase much. They were playing around. But all of them are still distinctions. But my aim was that I just want them all above 90.
Ooh,
I was like, I just want them there. Then so it was expected. I was not even worried. Because at the end of the day, when the results came out, my friends called. You know, during the time, remember they used to come out in the paper. We had to wait in the garage, midnight vibes. So my friends were calling me, "Hey man, we're not asleep here. We're waiting for the results. Where are you? Come through." And I'm like, relax. You know what I was like?
You were sleeping.
Nah, fam. I was in another town. I was in East London at the Provincial Awards.
Okay.
I received an invite from the minister to say that you're invited to be part of the top 52 performing students in the Eastern Cape. So we were invited there. So we had a dinner where we're going to be top and receive our results.
Wow.
So me, I was in a hotel room, my friend calling me. I'm like, no, my brother. I'm sleeping now. My eyes are wide. I'm just kidding. But
what? Yeah. Imagine from becoming a member of the IDC to being at a hotel with ministers. This transition is...
It's possible. It's possible. That's why I'm saying internal drive. It's possible.
Okay. Let's talk about med school now. How was it coming from, like, growing from a rural area, a village, to coming to this big university now at UCT as a medical student? How was it for you? How do you feel?
It was a shocker. It was a shock to the system. It's like someone was electrocuting you to wake up. Because when you're in high school and you're a dreamer, you dream about this nice vibe, you know, like all the things you see on TV, university should be. But you realize that when you come here, the environment is totally different. University, it was a shocker to me. That is why I fell into something called imposter syndrome. That intense feeling of feeling like you do not belong, like you do not deserve to be here. I'm telling you that I never had a laptop. I never knew how Word or these Excel don't work until I got to university. You know, I got my first laptop from those awards that I was talking to you now about. So I was like, when people got into, people are opening computers, I'm like, what are these things
Mac
for?
books, MacBooks and
like, what are
iPads.
these for?
Yeah.
You know, people raising hand, asking questions. I'm like, yeah. And there was even a point where I didn't know whether it was my ears, but I just couldn't understand the English. It was just moving very fast for me because English, now we didn't even speak it at school. Who are you going to speak English to? Like, it was Xhosa. English was taught in Xhosa. Everything was taught in Xhosa. Like, even when you don't understand maths, Tata le udibanise na le. You know, like, so now you get to an institution where it's primarily English. So that's why I'm like, imagine now if I was in an Afrikaans institution.
And it's not even basic English, it's medicine English.
Exactly. So for me, it was a really shocker that I really like went down. And also the first physics test, they were like, so you arrive in medicine, there's a humbling physics test.
I was going to ask you actually, what was your most humbling marks, like your most humbling experience?
I was literally on the border. So I think I received for that test, they were like, they told us to relax. They were like, yeah, no need to prepare for this test. No, you'll be fine. Then they're like, okay, test day, everyone is relaxed. I was sitting in the front row as I normally do in high school. I sat and I was writing and I looked back and I realized everyone was looking at the ceiling, looking elsewhere. Then the marks came out, it was a 52. And I'm like, I barely made it.
Yeah.
I don't know, I felt a little bit of joy because I thought I failed. But at the same time, I was like, what?
That's varsity for you.
What?
I get a 52. Thank God.
So, and the voices that when I was telling people about this experience, there were a lot of voices that were pushing me to mediocrity. It was like 51 is a pass, 52 is a distinction.
Yeah.
I almost fell into that trap of believing in that mediocrity. But in essence, I'm thankful for the people that were around me that really helped me to pull out from that. But that's the university institution that I came into. One that makes you feel like you don't belong, and one where you fail and they normalize failure. They normalize mediocrity as if you do not deserve to excel or you do not deserve to have higher marks.
So you graduated while you were in med school. And a lot of people don't understand, how did that happen? Did you do a degree before you got into med school? What is it? Just explain it to us.
Pongo.
Kolinole.
I'm just kidding. But anyway, so how it goes is that UCT, being at UCT is a privilege in the sense that they're very research based. They love research. They love people who want to change the status quo, make a difference, that are not kind of happy with where the medical space is and they would like to see it, improving further. So in that respect, what they decided to do is that they allow medical students to get a background of research, so that even after their degree, when they want to actually proceed and do research, they don't struggle much. So how they did this is that they introduced something called molecular medicine. Part of being an intercalated program. To intercalate is to mix together. So what they did is that let's create an intercalated program to allow second year medical students to apply for this program. How it will run is that it will then in your third year you are going to do a BSc, 1 year BSc with your third year. They'll run at the same time throughout the year. Then once they run at the same time throughout the year, it will, according to NQF qualifications, it will basically be like a complete degree on its own. Then what happens is that we're going to give them an option. You did this BSc in molecular medicine. Do you want to do honors for this BSc that you did? Then some students are like, no, I'm going to continue with medicine. I'm fine. I didn't enjoy research that much anyway. Others are like, no, I'm going to do it later when I'm done. Others are like, let me go straight into it. So you take a year out of medicine to do your honors. There are varying fields here. It's really beautiful, like your infectious diseases, your immunology, your biochemistry, your neuroscience, variety to choose from.
Which ones do you do?
I did neuroscience and physiology. What? Mdizo wants to be a neurosurgeon one day.
Really?
Right. So I love neuro. I love the brain. I feel like it's one thing that we know nothing about, and there's so much more to discover. You know, it's still mind-boggling to this day. So it's really exciting for me. So Yeah, I did that. So now what they do after that is that you do your honors, and it's a proper honors, right?
Yeah.
It's an honors degree, you're done with 1 year, then you choose. Then they ask you, do you want to continue to do masters on its own, or do you want to come back to do medicine alone, or do you want to do both masters and medicine together? How much of a sacrifice do you want to make with your life? That's what they're asking. Other students, they go for masters because they're like, look, I got into medicine, but I think it was a mistake. I think I love my research. They masters, PhD, whatever. Other students, they like, look, I think research, I'm fine. Then they continue with medicine.
Yeah.
Other students, they like, look, let's take this together. I'm the student who was like, look, my honors are fine now. Let me go into medicine now. Yeah. Finish what I'm doing. Then, because the thing is, it is the quality of life that it's stealing. That I felt like I needed for myself. Because social media as well as other things, leadership, there was just so much. I was like, it's fine. I will do my master's afterwards.
I actually do remember, I think we were in first year or second year, I think it was second year, where they were presenting to us these programs, right? Precisely. They were like, okay, you can feature a year inside your med school, and then now you're going to do 7 years instead of 6 years. You can add 2, and then now you do 8 years. You can add 3, now you do 9 years. I was like, I am nowhere going there, right? But also another thing, I was like, actually, maybe if I were to go there, what would it take? And I remember saying that, okay, your average should be 75% or above 75% in first year and second year. I was like, ain't no way, bro. Ain't no way, bro. That's not me. So now, I actually want to know, because this means that you were performing well, in first year and in second year. Now I want to know, how did you do that? So I was performing well in my first year. Second year I had a bit of trouble because generally the year I feel like it was a bit difficult for me, and I jumped into a lot of leadership positions. I think I was a chairperson of a society in second year. I was doing a lot of things. I was an orientation leader. I was hey? So I was like, that's not a good year to do all those things. I could have just used that year to study. But my marks went down a bit. I think my average was about 70 in second year. Really?
Yeah. So
that is good.
Yeah, it went down though. But eventually I was like, so in the interviews now for this program, they're like, we see your marks went down from first year to second year. What happened? Then I showed them the things that I do. Like, actually, for the things that you do, I mean, this is understandable. It's points for you. It means that you have the ability to some extent cope with the different things that you do. I think that really worked in my favor. Then we applied. Then I think the key there was the interview. They were not really caring much about the marks. There are people with marks, higher marks than mine, much higher marks than mine, who dropped out in the first week, first 2 months, first because I think we started up as a bunch of almost like in Molmed, I think almost close to 20, 25. I think when we ended, was it 15? Of those 15, I think only 8 went into honors.
Really?
Of those who went into honors, I think only 1 or 2 are doing masters.
Graduate.
Like it just keeps going down. So they were focusing in the interview. Why? What's your why?
Why did you want to do it?
But
for me, actually, I am interested in knowing, how were you able to get that 70 average? How are you able to get the good marks? Because honestly, med school, in my own experience, was really hard. Like it still is right now. And I know there are also a lot of people right now who are currently struggling to find, the right study methods and whatsoever. And I do, because I shared my story about my experience in second year, and I got a lot of people who related to that story, like, we also don't know what to do. We are in that position. So I think I just want to know, how were you able to cope? How were you able to keep up with the work in that year?
That year was a very difficult year, Mdizo. That year was a very difficult year. I think what really helped me a lot is that the people around me were people that were very positive. So what they would do is that even after a test, we would not bring each other down. We'll pull each other up. I had a person in my life, my partner, who really also played that role of, ensuring that we go at it. Like, I remember even this other time before that test, it was a language of medicine, LOM, remember LOM? That test, there were textbooks in front of us open of topics we haven't covered. And she was like, look, we are very intelligent people.
Yeah.
We're going to figure it out. Ne? We went and we met other people who are also in the same boat, and we're like, guys, we've got this, let's push. So me, it was always that positive energy. And prayer. I pray a lot, so like I pray a lot. Sometimes that's why if someone is like, would you ever start med school if you're the project? Never. I've went through things that if not for prayer, I would not have gone through. So I would never start this degree. I would go study something else. Like, given the opportunity. But it was a combination of things, and also trying to figure out what works for you. Once I figured out what works for you, sometimes flashcards do work, but what I would suggest is that figuring out what works for you when. There are things that are just so content dense that you can't do flashcards because you have to still review, and it's hard to review. So figuring out what works for you and how your memory works and working ahead, all those combination things, and sacrificing a lot.
I think my challenge was managing my time, because I remember in that year we had lectures from 8 and then we were ending at 5 p.m. So it was difficult for me to actually like balance when it comes to school and still living a life, you know, and still going back to actually study. So how did you find the balance?
I think also the balance was also difficult for me. I think that's why my marks dropped as well, because I also wanted to live a life, because I had meetings to attend, I had things to do. But I think when you're in an uncomfortable position like that one, it pushes you to think beyond. Like that schedule thing, it's not an option. You must have a schedule, otherwise you'll miss a meeting. You must have a schedule, otherwise you'll do that. You know, even when going into mall med, doing that 2 degrees, it forces you to have a schedule. When everyone else is going home, you're still attending lectures. Until like 8 p.m., 7 p.m., you're still attending lectures. Then when you get home, either you can't like, okay, now let me just procrastinate. Like there's always that pressure. So I think that uncomfortable environment forced me in a corner where I was like, I have to schedule things. Where I would even use I saw you made another video about calendaring and whatnot. That really worked for me, bro. Like, guys, watch those videos, my friend. That's not a lie. Like that really works for me. I realized that the further ahead I can plan, the better and easier my life will be. Because if I can schedule, look, but all my shifts for this are here, all my meetings are this, all my lectures are like this, all my things are like this, I know what blocks of time I can manipulate to study. And I respect the time. You know this concept, the illusion of time? That thing of like, no, it's an 8-week block, we still have time. It would get me a lot in second year, but no, we still have a bit of time. But when I started this scheduling thing, I realized there is no time. There is no time. So it really helps with everything.
Oh, okay. Now let's talk about Mdizo on TikTok. The one that a lot of people know and what a lot of people know you for. So how did you start creating content on social media?
I started singing.
I know. I actually know that because of it.
I love singing so much, guys. I love singing so much. I love music generally. Like even if you go to the following people that I'm following on TikTok, it's always music groups. Like I love having that on my For You page. So that's how I started. How
did you start then creating, study tips, motivation for high school students? What inspired you to actually create that? What's that mean? I'm your role model.
The thing is, role model, guys. Like the thing is, to be honest with you, what happened is that I realized that there's a lack of information and a lot of people are suffering because of that. I remember when I went back home and people were asking me so many questions. They were just basic questions, but they just didn't have access to that information. It was so basic, like maybe like, where do I download past papers? Or where do NPT,
how long is medicine?
How long is medicine? How do I apply? Like it's basic questions and information is there. They just can't access it. And I realized that, then I shared with people like certain things about my journey, and I realized that by just being yourself and sharing your experience, a lot of people get touched. You know, like, I'm sure you've been receiving messages from people like...
exactly. Like, that's how I also, like, sort of started, because people just ask me, how did you perform in med school? I was just shooting a random TikTok saying I'm a medical student at UCT, you know. I was just new on TikTok that time. And then when people were like, okay, how did you perform in high school? And then I was just like, oh, casually, I got 98 in physics, da, 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 da. And then now everyone just started asking me, how did you do it?
Tell us.
This and that, you know, and that's when I realized that, wow, people actually need help. People actually need information. That is when I was like, okay, actually, let me share. How did I get here? You know, why not? And then that's where I started a YouTube channel. And I was like, okay, let me actually share to people. How did I get here? How do I do this? So yeah, I do understand what you're talking about. And also, this content that we are doing, there are few people who do it to a point where it can become overwhelming if like you are the only one who does it. And actually I was glad seeing you, you know, creating the same content, because now it means that people can get information from somewhere else when I am not creating.
As well.
Yes,
exactly.
Because sometimes, you know, I wouldn't feel like shooting a TikTok video, you know.
But you're like,
but then, you know, DMs, you know, people are asking about a lot of stuff. So now I'm like, okay, if I don't talk about MBT, Mdizo is talking about MBT. If I'm not talking about trial exams, Mdizo is talking about trial exams. You know, someone is doing the same content as me. So yeah,
I think now what really stood out for me is that concept of saying that there's enough room at the top for everyone. And another concept that I like sharing on my TikTok, let's climb the ladder, hold it there for someone else.
Yeah, I love that,
you know, because that's the only way we can create a pipeline. And I realize this topic that you're talking about now in terms of impact, you know, when you help a student, you're not only helping that student, you're helping that entire family.
Yeah. Hey.
Bruh, I realized that when a parent texted me that my child basically is now getting better marks because I showed them your video, and now my child is basically my only hope.
Oh wow.
Meaning that that child now is standing a chance to improve. I mean, look, it's not a burden we want to put on the child, but at the end of the day, it is a light that we want to embrace. Now there's hope for that family because of a video that you decided while sitting there or something. Be like, let me just share something. So it's the impact. It definitely is the impact.
So what are your future plans? Like, what do you want to specialize in? You did mention that you like a neuro. So do you want to be a neurologist or a neurosurgeon?
So I'm not going to lie to you, I'm in a journey of redefining who I want to be and what I want to do and the impact I want to have. So in my heart of hearts, I know that neuro is definitely where I want to go, neurosurgery, neurology, but mainly neurosurgical, like cutting. But that's where I want to go. But there's a part of me that also enjoys a lot of research as well. And a concept of business. it's still gonna be complex, but
and TikTok as well.
Like TikTok, social media, like it's still gonna be amazing, guys. Like I'm looking forward to this journey.
All right, so what can we expect from you? I saw that you are coming back on YouTube. Go subscribe to Mdizo's channel, guys. Period.
And that's on pay.
Yeah. Wow, okay, so you're coming back to YouTube, and yeah, for sure people are looking forward to that. So let's just touch brief when it comes to your internship. Do you want to go back home in Eastern Cape and work there? Where do you want to do your internship?
My thoughts is that's definitely not Cape Town. I would have loved Cape Town, but it's very expensive, guys, and it's for a person who's starting up and not having like a serious baseline. You really want to start off somewhere where you can afford things. But so I'm thinking of either going back to the Eastern Cape or actually going to KZN, because KZN is actually quite close to my village.
Closer,
yeah, it's about a few hours, like 2 hours, 3 hours. So it's actually quite closer in that way. And it depends also on the life that I want to have with the partner that I have currently. Where do we want to be? So wherever we decide, you know, you don't make decisions for yourself now. You know. You strategize and see what makes sense for the both of you in terms of starting a life and all of that. My family as well, you know, my baby sister, what's gonna happen with her. So there's a lot of decision making still need to be done. So yeah.
Okay. So what advice would you give your friends out there, or a high school student who want to study medicine, or they're someone who's looking up to Mdizo?
Keep watching our videos.
That sounds like a threat. That sounds like a threat.
But no, to be honest with you, like always exposing yourself to inspiration helps you keep going as well. It's that external thing that you need, but as I've mentioned, that starts internally, right? Have that something inside you that wants to change and wants to do better so that you can inspire the outside. Then keep consuming this content, but at the same time, use it. I see a lot of people, they ask me the same question because I give the content, then they watch it, they're like, wow, this is a great idea. Using it, dollar.
Yeah,
so use the content, learn from it, and actually apply it. Run experiments on your own life with the advice that we give. Then you'll see what works. Then share the knowledge, right? Climb the ladder and leave it there for someone else to climb too.
Okay, wow. We've come to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching up until this far. If you've reached this point, please comment using purple hearts on the comment section so that we see that you are the real one and you actually watched up until this far.
You are.
And if you are a health sciences student or a health professional and you would like to come to MedChats, please write me an email on becomingdrandy@gmail.com and we will definitely make it happen. And keep on requesting the guests that you want to see, guys. You see, I brought you Mdizo, so definitely I can bring you the next guest you want to see here. And also, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, to his YouTube channel, and follow us on TikTok at Becoming Dr. Andy, at Mdizo. And please like this video and share with those who might need to see this. I'll see you again on the next episode.
Salutes. But Nazakaya, me, I'm giving you your flowers on behalf of your viewers there. Ogut, you must be proud of yourself, Mchan. The journey that you've come. First of all, from never knowing that you'd be here and having the impact that you're having now. And like setting up, guys, I'm not going to even start on how many hours that takes and the editing and the whatnot while doing medicine at the same time. But valuing your people so much that you're going to be consistent for them, right? Where there was no financial gain at first. So Ndana, you must be proud of yourself, and we are proud of you. And I'm sure the people in the comment section are going to lay down and say
so much. Thank you so much, guys. I try. It's really hard, but I do try. Hey.
Ndana, we appreciate.